the truth is that every company needs a different ROAS. So it's based on all those costs and everything else. So it doesn't matter if you can do 5 to 1, if you can do 20 to 1, it's what are the costs there? And so marketers need to go a step beyond that KPI of ROAS and understand profitability, because in many cases, marketers are just relying on being told that KPI of, hey, hit a certain ROAS, and then, but they're relying on someone else in the company to tell them what that ROAS should be. And I think that a marketer should understand the bigger picture beyond that, because the strategy could be wrong for the whole company if you're just saying hit a certain KPI and it's not even going to achieve profitability of sorts. So, yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Expert. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Branden Cobb. And Branden, we're going to be talking about a few different things, including fractional CMO or Chief Marketing Officer services, and also maybe looking to compare a little bit about the difference between CMO and Chat GPT, as that's certainly on a lot of minds with regards to marketing, and then dealing with differences in costs as well as pricing of services, and maybe even talk a little bit about e-commerce and Amazon stores, and looking at seasonality and inventory and turnover rate and other things of that nature. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Branden.
Thank you very much, Devin. I appreciate you having me back. Had a lot of fun on the last podcast with you, and thanks for having me back. And I can tell anybody listening that Devin, when he says, reach out for IP related legal service, he knows what he's talking about. I reached out to him and he had a lot of great advice. So thanks for that.
Hey, well, I always appreciate the kind words. And just as a reminder for the audience, for those that didn't catch it, so Branden was on the sister podcast, which is The Inventive Journey, which is sharing his full journey. So if you haven't had a chance to go check out his episode there, definitely make sure to check that out. But for those that either haven't had a chance to check it out yet, or just saying, hey, I just want the quick snippet and then dive into the areas of expertise, take a minute or two and introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name's Branden. I've been marketing for 15 years, mostly in-house for the most part, a variety of companies in a variety of industries of all sizes as well, small, medium, and large size companies. But over the last year and a half, I've really broken out and have been providing fractional chief marketing officer services. So I've been consulting multiple clients at the same time. And it's been a really great experience because you get to learn a lot by all the different challenges that everybody's enduring. And you're able to take the experiences from the past, but also things you're learning between clients and implement the best strategy for the right situation. So.
No, that's awesome. That's definitely a great introduction and a great background. So now diving into a few of the topics at hand, and maybe in no particular order, but maybe for those that are out there, they're maybe reasonably familiar with, or at least heard of, marketing officer or chief marketing officer, and figuring out what they may want to do, or what they're looking for, or kind of anything of that nature. They know they need marketing, but they don't necessarily know what all they need. So before we get into a fractional CMO, maybe the first step would be is just maybe give the audience a quick overview as to what are the normal things that a CMO would do, or the responsibilities, or kind of what they might approach.
Sure. So, marketing has for a long time been talked about the 4 P's of marketing. So product, price, place, and promotion. And so many people, I think of marketing as just that promotional side, doing the advertisements, the social media, the content, the events, doing the items that reach the end consumer. Is what I think a lot of people think of marketing. But really marketing, when you think about product, it's how do you find a product that's going to, what in the marketplace, what is the marketplace needing? Where is there a gap? And what kind of features would your target audience need? So that's, you need to work with the product team. And then the price of understanding what's going to sell, what's the price elasticity there, and where does the price need to be to create the overall most revenue in place. Are you going to go to Amazon? I think later today we're going to talk about Amazon, but like, are you going to go to Amazon? Are you going to go set up a storefront? How are you going to get your product out? So a chief marketing officer, I think, can go way beyond that downstream, just promotional side. They can think at a strategic level, maybe more upstream. And so what I found is that, most large companies have a chief marketing officer and they oversee the marketing department. And but a lot of smaller to medium-sized companies, they either don't have much of a marketing department, or if they do, they maybe have more junior employees, or they have a senior employee, but it's a person that's been around for a long time, and they endure they come about new situations that they haven't experienced before, and they just need to consult with somebody. So that's where the fractional chief marketing officer comes in, is working from the outside of coming in and basically providing that chief marketing officer service of providing the high level infrastructure and strategy of your marketing. And if you're in house, you're going to do it forever as the chief marketing officer. If you're out of house, it's kind of a fractional chief marketing officer. You're working with multiple people at the same time, and you try to set them on their way, give them what they need so they can go out and do it themselves with the team they have.
No, makes perfect sense. And it's interesting kind of the rise of, fractional, whether it's, CFO for finances or marketing or a lot of those different things. And I think it is filling a good, gap in the marketplace, which is a lot of startups and small businesses generally, don't necessarily have the budget to just hire someone full time right out of the chute. They're just bootstrapping it, getting it going, looking for filling in with the services they need or that they can afford, and then, continuing to expand the business. And so I think that the fractional aspect of, having someone that can step in, provide those services, provide that guidance, provide that, those different things, provides a great flexibility for smaller businesses and startups, and those that are looking to get some of those services without the budget full time. So now maybe just walking us through, because I kind of set that up, but, give us a bit of an idea as to what is the difference between, or I guess, how do you go about deciding, do I need a full-time marketing officer that just gets out and helps us to, and I get there's a difference between sales, but, helps to drive awareness and drive impact and drive the, the marketing side of the business. When do you consider the fractional side as opposed to a full-time, or virtual assistant versus in the US, and kind of walk us through how you might go about making that, or some of that decisions?
Yeah, so I mean, I think ideally, no matter the size of your business, as long as it's operational with sustainable revenue, I think you should be having some type of marketer on staff. But when do you engage with somebody on all this strategy? I would say there's several different situations where it really could come into play. So number one, you're either launching a product or service, or a new company. It may be an existing company that you're launching a new product or service, and you want to consult on that go-to-market strategy. But it could be just the start of a new company, and you need to. So a marketer ideally would be involved from the start, because they're going to understand the consumer research and the competitors and different elements that are going to really affect what your general approach. And if it's a company starting from the start, I mean, they're going to do your logo, your colors, your messaging, your website, your business cards, all these different elements. But if it's a go-to-market strategy of a new product, then you want somebody on board as that's developing. So I don't ever think there's a time that's too early to start consulting with marketing. It may actually prevent some mistakes from occurring if you're getting that input from that angle. Then another time, though, let's say you've got somebody in house, or you've already launched and everything, when you may need somebody is there could be two situations. Number one, you've kind of you feel like you've maxed out what you can do as a company with your revenue. You don't really know where to go next. You don't know how to generate more growth. You may want to consult with somebody then, or have bring a person in house if the revenue is sustainable for doing so. Because then you would they may be able to give you that spark to just reignite and keep growing there. So when you hit you kind of hit a stop, that would be an inflection point to maybe bring somebody in. And then lastly, I think there are certain situations where either the market takes a major shift, or your company is losing quarter over quarter, and you need to figure that out. So it's not really that you're the previous example was you're operating well, you just kind of maxed out, but now you're backtracking and you need to figure out a situation to keep the business up and going, and that would be a good time too. So I would consider maybe 3 inflection points there of when to ramp up your focus.
No, and I think those are good to keep in mind, and good inflection points that you can consider as a business hopefully continue to expand and grow, and when you might bring someone on this on the fractional side, and when it makes sense to bring it on full-time or in-house. So now we're going to shift gears just a little bit, because it seems like, at least when I look at the LinkedIn feed or the news and talk with other people in the industry, that one of the concerns, but one of the growing things that seems to be a usage for AI, such as ChatGPT, and it seems like every time I see it, there's new people that are using different variations or different approaches or new services along with that, is utilizing some of that within the marketing services, whether it's for content creation, whether it's for short articles, whether it's for writing, posts that you can put on social media or whatnot, is, hey, everybody's saying, why don't we just use ChatGPT? And, there's the question as to whether or not it will supplant some of marketing services, or whether it's more of a tool and whatnot. So any kind of thoughts on how AI, ChatGPT, or any of those related services, and I know there are other ones out there, how that kind of fits in with the mix, and how, or what people might want to keep in mind to consider?
Well, first, I think AI is going to be a great efficiency tool for you, and yes, it is true. You may be able to eliminate some of your marketing labor of the reoccurring tasks that marketers are doing. But you still need a strategy guideline. You still need somebody to, even if you're plugging into ChatGPT, you need to know what if you understand cause and effect of marketing, you understand consumer psychology, and you understand what needs to be asked of the ChatGPT or the AI to create, then it's all about prompting now. So you have to know how to prompt it, and you have to know what you're looking for as a final result. So I would say, the way I look at a marketer in general, and this is a comparison of the fractional CMO versus the in-house CMO. In-house CMO, you've got deep experience in that specific industry that you're working in right there. I mean, like, let's say if it's marketing in financial services, or it's marketing in real estate, or marketing in a tech system, you're going to know the specifics of the regulations and different things there. The difference is on the fractional side, because you're working with so many different clients, you're going to have, you're as good as all the experiences and all the different things you've seen and strategies you've seen employed or deployed to be able to put the right answer for your client at the right time. So just like AI is good because it understands everything that's across the internet and able to take this specific information that's related to your question and give you an answer, because it's able to, in a way, have experienced the internet. If you're a marketer, you're going to have experiences that maybe that business owner doesn't have in the specific marketing focus of it. But the wider your experiences, the more you can pump out the owner of the company can ask you a question, and you as a human being can pump out, almost like an AI form, a answer that is specific to their need at that point in time. So I would say that yes. I mean, I think that AI is great, and I think there are platforms I may have mentioned on the last show, but I've been consulting a company that is called Bolsteroo, and they are a content management service where so you pre-schedule out your social media content, but it's also AI creating the content. So that AI creating the content and the AI scheduling the content, the scheduling is nothing too new, but the creating the content and the scheduling the content, this takes away human labor. And that's great for you as a business, but you still need to know what direction should that content be? What is going to have the most effectiveness? What's the approach there? And I think that's where a marketer overlays with the AI to provide you an even better service at a cheaper cost if you're using less labor now than ever before.
No, and I think that makes sense, and one of the interesting things I've talked with a few other people, just because I think for me, it's, just an area of interest and kind of is interesting because AI has been talked a lot about and had a lot of applications in a lot of movies, but it's one of the more first real world applications that you're seeing it to catch traction. One of the other questions I'd had come up with, some of the clients and they even when talking about with people in the industry is using AI, as you mentioned, almost for content generation. That can be whether it's creating blog posts, whether it's doing, more automated fashion of posting on social media and everything else. And the question has come up, and love to get your thoughts on it if you could, is, when you're creating that content, is it close enough? There's always a question, is it perfect versus close enough? Perfect means it's, ideal. Close enough is it's good enough to use, that you can just kind of turn AI loose, whether it's for content creation, doing blogs, doing it, posting for social media, or is there still need to be an oversight to where, hey, I can go on, have it create, whether it's a post content, a blog article, and it gets me 85% of the way there, but you still need someone experienced to come in, tweak it, update it, or make it better. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think I think it will get there. I don't think it's there yet. So I remember like years ago when we would do lots of blog posts or social media posts for a company I was working for. I had staff who were creating a lot of that content, but a lot of times it would then, and this was maybe not even the best process because it's not super scalable where I have to have my eyes on everything, but all that content then was made and sent to me. And then I just had to kind of take a quick overview and check mark. Okay. Yep. Post. Yep. It's good. Publish. And so, I think that's where we're at with the AI is you still need to, I wouldn't let it loose completely, until you know that if you do let it loose, that like 95% plus of the time it's going to be spot on with what you're looking for, because you don't want it to go out and do something that you wouldn't want to represent your business with. So it's not that even so much like tweaking it so much, it's just double checking that it is pumping out the right stuff. Once you feel confident it is, then maybe you can let it loose, but I wouldn't let it loose out of the gate. And then the other thing though is, there's this whole concept of originality with AI. So if through time right now, there's a lot of originality because we haven't seen all of the internet continue to be reposted in multiple different ways. But at some point, the question is like, how much originality will there be if it's always just repurposing the same stuff? And with prompting, what you're putting into the AI. Sometimes it's like it can be 50% or it could be 90% is actually what you are putting, what you are giving it is the uniqueness, is the creativity, is the thing that's not on the internet. It's just rewording it in a better way to present it in different things. And so but it's still pulling some elements from from across the internet. So that uniqueness comes from who's prompting it, I think. And so it'll be interesting to see where it goes on your topic of let it loose and just be, or still monitor it. And I think right now it's a step forward, but it still needs monitored of sorts.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it seems like, and a lot of the consensus is now, and it's kind of always a biased answer, right? Because if it truly got, or it truly was replacing, then all the marketers, content creations, and everything else, they would either have to adjust, and it has an impact on whether or not the industry will survive or how big the industry will be. And so it's always hard to sift through, hey, what is the actual answers to how close it
Right.
is versus what is a biased answer. Is kind of like when you go to an attorney and ask, hey, do I need legal services? Attorneys always get to say absolutely, even if you don't really need them, just because they're incentivized because they want the work. And so always interesting to get that perspective. But I think that that's an accurate answer, which is it's improving, it's getting better, it's a great tool, but just like everything else, it's a tool, not a replacement. So I think that definitely makes sense.
Well, and if you don't mind me saying one more thing on that is I think you're exactly right with the conflict of interest there. The only problem, I mean, the thing is, I think this is an honest answer at this point. But let's say it gets to the point where it can run fully on its own. That's great. That is still just one tool, one channel, and maybe this is a biased answer too as a marketer, but I'm still saying that that is not all your marketing right there. That would be one tool in the I would say that eliminates some lower level marketing support, but it does not eliminate knowing how to put which tools in place at different times, and that's just still one tool of many tools in the toolkit.
No,
So
and I definitely agree because and the interesting is, kind of like it's has the potential to disrupt maybe some of the marketing industry. It's the same thing on the legal side. A lot of people, you've had attorneys for a long period of time, for better and for worse. That once depends on the industry and depends on what area of law, but they'll get their set templates of
mm-hmm.
documents, and then when you come in, you're paying for the document that they've already created, and they can spend a fractional amount of time and charge you for the full amount. And so now that people are saying, well, can you have AI do that same type of thing where it really does a lot of document review, updates, and supplants attorneys? And I think that the most of the attorneys are kind of the same opinion. It's a great tool and it has a lot of potential. It's probably not quite there to replace it yet, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes. So well, now shifting gears just a little bit more as we're kind of getting towards the end, and lots of things we could talk about, and we'll have to have you back on another time. But one of
Be
the
happy
other
to.
things that that I think when people are looking at marketing officers that they're trying to figure out is, how do I deal with, because if I were to go out and look at marketing officers, you can get anybody from someone that's fresh out of school to someone's seasoned to someone that has a huge package, and hey, you need all these services, to hey, you really only need a couple services. And it's, if you're experienced, you know what you're doing, or you've done it for a while, you can sift through that and figure out what you need. But a lot of times when you're just getting started, you really don't know the level of marketing or how much you should start out with and where your business is at. So any thoughts on how you approach what kind of costs you should anticipate, what kind of services you should look at, and where, what you should be thinking about specifically if you're more of a startup or a small business that isn't as experienced?
Yeah. So, I focus on how do you be profitable from day one, and it's not necessarily like this with marketing. For the way I approach it, it's going to be some get rich quick scheme or anything. It's going to be a slow and steady compounding effort. Um, so what I mean by that is, what's the okay? Your price when you make a successful transaction in whatever business you're in, the amount of revenue you bring in. Okay, that the sales price basically. So what do you that price minus how much does it cost for you to provide your product or service, both the product, and it could be the fixed cost and the variable cost both. But just like what is the cost there? And then the sales price minus that total the total amount of cost is going to be your profit area. So for me, it would be how can you generate a successful transaction for less than that profit gap there. And it doesn't even have to be a lot. It could be $1 to start. So your customer acquisition cost or your CAC right there is okay. So now I know when you're talking about how many different things do you need to get going? I try to figure out what what needs deployed to be able to achieve a customer being acquired, but also what mix can be deployed to remain within that budget that we're talking there, that gap of and so and if you can't acquire a customer for less than that, then maybe that the model's wrong. Maybe you need to work on your inputs that get to get your cost down, or maybe you need to work on the price needs to go up as long as it's not going to defer a customer. So that's where if you need to understand, can you do it there? And if you can, then it's just deploying the right amount of resources to achieve that. And that's what I try to focus on. So yeah, you don't have to throw anything and everything at it immediately. It's just how do you achieve profitability and keep growing, and then you take that profitability and you keep reinvesting it and reinvesting it, and that's where you start compounding, and through time you may have multiple channels and you're building multiple synergy and you're adding more tools. But initially I would do it from this like scrappy approach. So
no, and I like that. And I think that that's the thing to keep in mind is, because sometimes you'll get excited. Hey, we just need to go blast some marketplace, so we need to blitz it, or we need to be everywhere to everybody. And you can go and spend a lot on marketing, sales, ads, SEO, website, you can, or trade shows, all of these things. And yet to your point is you have to look and say, one, what is your budget able to afford? What are your costs of goods sold versus what's your profitability? And then what kind of plan fits into that? And to your point, if you can continue to reinvest and grow and you can expand into those other areas, that's awesome. But you shouldn't, don't go and try and be everything to everybody or have such a huge marketing that it kills a company before it can get its legs under it. So I think that's definitely a great takeaway.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Well, now as we start to wrap towards the end of the episode, and enjoyed the discussion, but I always like to wrap up each episode with one question. So we'll jump to that now, which is, within your industry, what is the biggest myth and why is it wrong?
Yeah. So the answer to that just plays off of what we were just talking about, and that is the reliance on ROAS, or return of ad spend, rather than understanding profitability. So many marketers are saying, "Oh, I can spend $2,000 to generate a $10,000 sale," and so that's a 5-to-1 ROAS there. So you got but with that being said, is what people need to understand. The myth is that that ROAS matters. The myth is, though, that every company needs. The truth is that every company needs a different ROAS. So it's based on all those costs and everything else. So it doesn't matter if you can do 5-to-1, if you can do 20-to-1. It's what are the costs there. And so marketers need to go a step beyond that KPI of ROAS and understand profitability, because in many cases, marketers are just relying on being told that KPI of, hey, hit a certain ROAS, and then but they're relying on someone else in the company to tell them what that ROAS should be. And I think that a marketer should understand the bigger picture beyond that, because the strategy could be wrong for the whole company if you're just saying hit a certain KPI and it's not even going to achieve profitability of sorts. So yeah.
No, I think, and that's a great myth to dispel, because you'll see, and I see it on Facebook, I see it on LinkedIn and others, that people say, hey, my clients spend $1,500 and they got $10,000 worth of sales, right? Just as you said. And I always tend to wonder, well, do they have that much in their profitability? In other words, if my products cost of goods sold, your COGS are that, and everything that's built in with time and money and effort is $9,000, and you only have a 10% profit margin, you just lost money. Now, if you have a 50% profit margin, that's a great return on investment. But just because you can spend so much to get it, depending on if you can or support that, some industries, 10% profit margin standard. Now, some of them it's 50 or 100% profit margin, but you have to look at, does the return make sense? Not just, are you getting a lot of people or customers and still losing money? And so I love that you dispel that myth. So
thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you completely understand it with the way you recap there. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So, well, now as we are wrapping up this episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Well, I would connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Branden, Branden, not O-N, Branden, and then Cobb, Cobb. Or you can reach out to me at brandon@marketingexec.us. Be happy to answer any questions you have, give you a consultation, anything like that. So
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, make a new connection, support a great company, and get some, or hopefully get some great fractional CMO services to help grow their business. So thank you again, Branden, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you the listeners that are out there, you can help us to share this expertise with even more startups and small businesses by clicking share, subscribing, leaving us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if you ever need help with patents, trademarks, or anything else with your startup, your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Branden, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
thank you.